Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today, a 12-team half PPR fantasy football mock draft. We're going through 13 rounds today, and I was looking back at our other videos we've done in the mock drafts. We've done a couple spots a draft from the 12, and I believe a draft from the 5 or the 6. So today we're going to go from the number 2 spot here, talk about some of my favorite strategy in the early, mid, and later rounds. We're going 13 rounds here today. From the 2 spot, should be pretty interesting in terms of, if I'm going with if Christian McCaffrey goes off the board first, if Justin Jefferson goes off the board first. So I'll kind of get into my thought process on the first round and overall how I feel about the number 2 slot in fantasy football drafts. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like, subscribe to the channel as well. Would really, really appreciate it. Get those post notifications on. We'll have content coming to you each and every day here around fantasy football, so be sure to tune in there. And then as well, comment down below. Would love to know what you guys want to see next in terms of from the mock drafts, what slots. I know somebody mentioned the 12 team on one of the previous videos. I wanted to make sure I did a different spot here because we already did the 12 team. But if you're in a 10 team league, we did our super flex. If you guys want to see more super flex mocks from different spots, let me know in the comments. But let's get into the draft here. And to be honest with you, from the number 2 spot, I do find myself, we talked about it in our strategy. Okay, Jamar Chase goes off the board first. So I was going to mention that from the 2 spot, I'm always wide receiver start. I'm either Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, whoever's available. For this, it will be Justin Jefferson. McCaffrey is my number 3 in my ranking. So it'll be Chase, Jefferson, McCaffrey, and then Kupp. And then I'd have Bijan, and then Kelsey, and then Eckler. So Eckler's I'm a bit lower on compared to consensus, but I like in this, typically I find, depending on how this breaks out, obviously, I typically find myself grabbing my, going a bit of a hero RB strategy here, and usually finding that hero RB in round 2 as opposed to round 1. And we've got both of my options here in Tony Pollard and Ramondre Stevenson, 2 backs that for me are players that as long as nobody else steps into a role or they don't add any veteran, I'm really comfortable with them and what the volume is that's coming to them. And Pollard's just ahead of Ramondre in my rankings, so I'm going to go Pollard with pick 2. And then we come back here. The potential or the likelihood for me going wide receiver, I think a lot of these options we have at wide receiver are really, really solid. Chris Olave and Devontae Smith are the 2 guys I like the most here from this group. The running backs, I find I have a lot of question marks with some of these guys. Like, will Tank Bigsby take away the scoring role from Travis Etienne? Because Etienne was not efficient in short yardage last year. Najee Harris wasn't very efficient back last season. Will Jalen Warren start to earn more of a role because he was very good? Breece Hall's injury, still not practicing. So a lot of these guys have question marks around. So for me, it's pretty easy. For some people, Jalen Hurts might be in the conversation, but to be completely honest, this is from the 2 spot. I find myself always going wide receiver, and Devontae Smith is that guy for me. He's a top 12 guy. He was in the final 6 weeks even better than A.J. Brown last season, so I'm very excited about the opportunity he has this year with an Eagles offense that should throw the ball more, as long as they're not in as many blowouts as they were last season. They got a bit of a tougher schedule, so that'll help. Whenever you win as many games as the Eagles do, the schedule does get a little tougher. So making its way back to me, this is typically a spot where I do look at quarterback. I've found quarterback to be available. I was doing a mock earlier this morning, and I was able to go Fields and actually DJ Moore for a stack. But both him and Herbert are gone, so that really changes the draft for me a little bit. I'll probably look. Amari Cooper would be the guy I would like the most. Miles Sanders, Amari Cooper, and who's the other one I'm thinking about? Miles Sanders, Amari Cooper, and then typically. Or potentially an Alexander Madison are the guys that look at in this range. So Sanders is gone. I know this is usually for me like a hero RB type of strategy. In this spot, Cooper is definitely the one that sticks out right now, and it's probably what I'll go with. Yeah, Cooper making it this far is great. So I'm going to go Cooper with this pick. So again, I'm pretty heavy. 3 excellent wide receivers in Jefferson, Smith, and Cooper. I can really start to focus on running back in these middle rounds. Now, this is a spot that gets a little bit tougher when I look at, Dameon Pierce, I'm not completely confident in. He's never been one I've drafted. Madison feels like a little bit of a reach at this point, but he is someone I'm really interested in. I don't feel like I need to go wide receiver now with the 3 that I grabbed. Like usually if I grab a tight end, or if I grab a quarterback, then I might go another wide receiver to go with 3 and then start killing running back. But now that I missed out on QB, I might go with 2 running backs. The wide receiver options, These are some guys I'm not that high on. I've talked about more at length. Hopkins, I think this Titans offense is going to be really bad. There's just the nagging in the back of my head is the reminder of like this so similar to Julio Jones move. I think Hopkins is a better player at this point in his career than Jones was, but it's still a thought process for me. I'm gonna go Madison. I'm not afraid to reach on him. I'm pretty high on him. He's inside my top 20. I think again, him and Pollard are great because they're two players that I'm like Pollard's talent a lot more than like Madison's, but Madison's in a role here where the Vikings love to run the ball inside the 5. Dalvin Cook was 3rd in the league in inside the 5 rushing attempts, so can score a ton of touchdowns in this Vikings offense that should score a lot of points and also give up a lot of points. Quarterback, we can still look at Deshaun in round 8? Are we in round 8 here now? Yeah, no, round 6 here now. Deshaun would be a great stack to go with Cooper. I might look for him on the comeback. At running back, James Cook is a player I'm much higher on than these other 3 guys. And I do think because the thing is with the Bills is they had their running backs had 90 targets last year. And now there's no Nyheim Hines and there's no Devin Singletary. The only guy that could potentially take some of his third down work would be Latavius Murray. Like Damian Harris isn't really a guy that's going to add too much more than maybe like 10 receptions. So I love Cook this year. The wide receiver spots, Christian Kirk is a guy that would stick out to me as someone to target, but again, feel really good about wide receiver. At tight end, I like Darren Waller too. I really like Darren Waller too. I'm going to go Waller. I'm going to go Waller here and then hopefully James Cook on the way back. That's what I'm going to look for. Yeah, so we can still go Cook on the way back. I love what Waller's look like in camp. I think he's in for a massive, massive target share with Daniel Jones. Especially when you look at the lack of options. Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins. There's not a ton of talent here. If Waller's healthy, he's in that to me, he's more in the, he has a better chance to be in the top, like that Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce tier than George Kittle and Kyle Pitts do. I think that's, if he's healthy, that is. I think that's not a crazy thing to say at all. So I'm going to go James Cook with this other pick. And now feel really good. Quarterback will be the spot we try to figure out. Kirk Cousins is going to be in an offense that's probably going to throw the ball maybe the 2nd highest rate in the league. They were 3rd last year. Now they let Dalvin Cook go. Madison hasn't been that efficient. So I could see this team being really valuable from that passing perspective, especially with such a bad defense too. So 2 is an option here, making it back as well. What do we have at some other spots though? Gabe Davis, as a guy I was really out on last year, but his ADP has come back so far from last season that he does become really interesting. Penny is definitely one I'm looking to as well. Probably should fill out a little bit more at that spot first. Yeah. So from the quarterback side, Cousins could still make it back to me on like the swing. So I might wait for the 10th. That could be a little bit risky. But in other cases, there's a Daniel Jones stack available. Jared Goff in a good offense. I'm going to go just because I feel, obviously I haven't looked at wide receiver for a few rounds, but I like Penny's opportunity to score touchdowns in the Eagles offense. They had the 3rd most inside the 5 rushing attempts with their backs. Penny is the guy to me in my mind. So I'm going to go him there. And then I do like a Michael Thomas or Zay Flowers. Same with Cortland Sutton I really like as well. I want to go for some upside here at wide receiver with three really solid, safe options there. Thomas is a guy that I think could score a lot of touchdowns in this new Saints offense. I think Olave will be that deep threat. He didn't have a lot of red zone prowess last year for the Saints. I don't think it's just the fact he was unlucky. I think it's the fact he just isn't that type of player. Thomas scored 3 touchdowns in 3 games last year. If he's healthy, Derek Carr is an upgrade at QB. For Flowers, I think there's so much potential here with how much this offense is changing. I think he's the number 1 guy. I'm going to go Zay Flowers. He's a player that I really, really want to have on a lot of my teams this year. Cousins doesn't make it back. That's unfortunate, but not too surprising. We're not in a bad spot there. We can still find some other options, especially with a Daniel Jones. Okay, so a Jones Waller stack. I don't have a problem with it at all because Jones will run the ball still a fair bit as well to really elevate his floor. I'll definitely look to grab another QB. If in a league where I've got maybe 15 rounds or more likely to have like 15 rounds, there's some guys I really like taking the flyer on there. At running back for this area, Jerick McKinnon, Tyler Algier are usually ones I like to target. The wide receiver spot, not a lot of options here. Sky Moore would be one. This is where things really drop off and where I like to target running back flyers. This is why I'm kind of a fan of that hero RB strategy, because you can take those flyers on running backs here that have some potential. So I think I'm going to go with Daniel Jones here to secure that stack with Waller, which I do really like. And then we'll go with with Jerick McKinnon. I like McKinnon in that receiving role because, again, there's not a lot of proven options here for the Chiefs. McKinnon's a guy that will definitely post a ton of receptions. As much as you think Mahomes is this great passer at all areas of the field, the Chiefs' offense has pretty naturally been checking the ball down. That's where for Mahomes, he's been really, really good. And McKinnon's definitely an important piece there. Bigsby makes it back. Bigsby would be a clear look for me here too. At wide receiver, a Rondell Moore, Nico Collins I like. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Yeah, Bigsby's an obvious one for me. I mentioned Etienne's struggles last year in short yardage. Bigsby has been really good in camp. They've kind of had people, hitting the brakes on him a little bit in terms of what you should expect. I don't expect a massive role to start the year out, but I expect a potential offense that takes another leap, gets into like the Lions type area from last season where they're a top 5 scoring offense and then someone's scoring all these touchdowns. Bigsby could definitely be that guy. Wide receiver, Nico Collins is still back. I would look at Derek Carr, I think, in this area for a second QB. I think we haven't seen the Saints offense with a really good quarterback. And I do think now with some solid weapons, Michael Thomas and Chris Olave for Carr, loves the deep ball as well. Could return you some great value and some good matchups, and the Saints have the easiest schedule in the league this season. So Carr's a great option. I think when I take a guy like Daniel Jones, I definitely want a second QB. I just don't know if I want to do it this early. I think I will. Nico Collins would be my other play. If I was in a 15 round draft, I probably would take Collins and then go with Carr hopefully later. But I like Carr over all of these guys, to be completely honest. I'm not very confident in Bryce Young in his first year. Murray's not someone I'm taking a flyer on. If I'm taking a guy like Daniel Jones, I do want to have a second option I can actually play. So I'm going to go Carr with this last pick. I like what we did in terms of I've got 3 really good options at receiver. Waller's a constant guy for me to look to at tight end because I think he's being completely undervalued for the volume he can receive in this offense. I think his ADP is definitely going to change, I think, once we get closer to the year. But anyways, we've got Daniel Jones at the QB spot, Tony Pollard and Alexander Mattison as our backs, 2 guys with some really good volume, I think, ahead of them this season. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Smith, 2 guys I have ranked in my top 12 at the wide receiver position in my 2 wide receiver spots. Darren Waller, a top 3 tight end in my mind this season. And then we have Amari Cooper and James Cook in the flex spots with a litany of backs here, and Rashad Penny, Jerick McKinnon, and Tank Bigsby on the bench for some great depth and some great upside, I think, with all 3 of these guys. Zay Flowers as the wide receiver 4 for me, and then Derek Carr as the backup at quarterback. But, all right, that is a 13 rounds, 12-team mock draft, half PPR from the number 2 spot. I find with this spot, again, wide receiver, I'm probably grabbing 3 wide receivers in my first 4 or 5 picks. That would be my advice to you from this 2 spot. That's what I find myself doing pretty constantly, and going wide receiver in that first round as well. But you can still find great guys with great volume expected for them in rounds 2 for Pollard, and then rounds 5 and 6 with Madison. So like what we did here, guys, if you enjoyed the video today, be sure to let me know, drop a like, hit that subscribe button. We'll have more content for you. If you guys watched our draft strategy for the first 5 rounds, your early round draft strategy, we've got some middle round draft strategy coming tomorrow, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.